Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm Emily. I work on the marketing team at Cast Iron, and today we're joined by someone really special, really talented, Laura of Butterfly Bakes. She is an Atlanta-based baker, mom, and so she's something of a pricing expert, I would say. She does really beautiful, incredible work, and you can check her out on Instagram at Butterfly Bakes ATL. But I wanted to start this before I hand it off to her, reading you something from her Cast Iron Shop's About section, which really resonated with me and I think is just a beautiful way to start this discussion. She wrote, "When I started decorating cookies, a passion ignited in me that has never been fully expressed. It was always there, but I had to find my way to it, just as the caterpillar finds its way to transform into a butterfly." I think that's beautiful. And I really hope that no matter what you make and sell to your customers, you're able to, harvest your passion and do what you love while making a profit. I think Laura is going to share some really great tips for doing just that. So just kind of housekeeping. If you have questions for Laura, please submit them via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, or you can put them in the chat box if that works better for you. I'll keep an eye on those and make sure we get those answered before the end of this session. But with that, I'll hand this over to Laura for her pricing tips. Laura, feel free to introduce yourself, jump in. I'm gonna hide my face and let you take it over.
Thank you so much. That was really nice way to introduce me. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you fellow bakers and business owners. And I still feel like I'm becoming the business owner that I want to be. And that's what I love so much about not only this community, but the opportunity Mark has given me by just being able to share my story with you today and share my knowledge. And I want to give you two disclaimers before we start. So the first is I am only speaking from my experience as a business owner. I don't have an MBA, I don't have sales experience, I don't have marketing experience. In my prior career, I worked in HR for 12 years. So I worked on payroll and benefits and helping employees with their problems. So I'm a bit of a natural problem solver, but I don't have specific trained experience or education in this. However, I do have almost 2 years of experience as a business owner, and I did start my business at a time where there were a lot of barriers to entry for me. It was during the pandemic. Christmas of 2020 was the first time I ever sold cookies, which I like to make the analogy that I was almost like a rookie football player that played in the Super Bowl as his first game. Because as we all know, Christmas is a big baking season, and especially for custom cookies, I did way more cookies that season than I really could have handled at a price point that was not really sustainable for me. So you live and you learn, and you do better when you know better. So that's what I'm here to do. The second disclaimer I want to give all of you is, as Emily mentioned at the beginning, I have a social media. I am fortunate enough to have really locked into what the machine wants fed to it, meaning video and that particular type of content, which is really hot right now. So I don't want you to compare yourself to me in that regard, because followers do not equal customers, okay? If I look at my following, let's say on Instagram, where I live in Atlanta, which is where I serve my customers, I'm a cottage food baker, so I am only licensed to sell direct to individuals within my community. So, and I don't ship cookies. I just can't deal with shipping as a one woman business. So Atlanta doesn't even show up on my top 5 cities of people that follow me. So I have, again, a big following, but that doesn't translate necessarily to customers. So I don't want you to think, oh, well, she just has all these people following her and she probably has people knocking down her door for her cookies. My custom cookie business is kind of separate from my social media strategy. So just wanted to put those two things out there. And if you see me looking down throughout the presentation, just know I'm just looking at the notes on my phone. Okay, so the reason we wanted to come here today is to talk about pricing, but also really want to let you all know that you're not alone in this. I know it can be a very lonely thing to be a business owner, and you don't feel like you have anyone to really talk to, and you feel like, you just are coming again up against some frustrations in your business. So we want to give you more tools and more resources to help you feel less alone. We also have a strong sense that most people are undercharging. So that's why we were kind of aggressive with the topic of the conversation being how to raise your prices. Because if you hear nothing else today, the basic message of this is we want you to raise your prices, and we want to tell you how to do that in a smart and strategic way. So the first thing I would say is before you do anything, you need to work on your mindset, okay? I don't want you to ever accept the thought that I am desperate for customers, right? Like, I have a great product, I'm starting my business, and I need to sell. Like, I need to find people who will buy this, okay? And well, if I price too high, that might turn some people off. I know that that can be a very real and scary thought for a lot of us that first start out. We almost feel like asking people to pay for something that we're making, especially when we feel like we're still learning, can be kind of an uncomfortable place. A lot of us, I know for myself, I started with friends and family, and I almost felt like, they would ask me, okay, how much is a dozen cookies? And I started out charging $40 a dozen. And I would say, oh, it's $40. Is that okay? Like, kind of like that whole thing. I'm sure a lot of you have been there. And I just want you to know that you kind of have to just take yourself out of the equation altogether. And what I mean by that is take your insecurity and your uncomfortability out of that equation with your customer. This is not about you. It is not about them. It's about your product. And it's about the fact that you need to define your customer. So we all want to sell a lot of product and make a lot of money. I know I do. I hope all of you do as well. I'm not sure you would be here if you didn't. There's an age-old saying that I'm sure most of you have heard, that a business makes you money, a hobby costs you money. And that is very, very true. And if you want to make money, if you want to be a business, it has to be about your product. It cannot be about you. Secondly, there are plenty of customers out there for you. You just have to figure out who your customer is. I have a practice that I did not too far into my business where I created an imaginary customer in my mind, who this person was. For me, I actually have two customers. Let me just say that. My first customer for my custom cookie business is I'm just gonna be blunt with you guys, a person of means, a person that has a lot of disposable income, that loves to host events, loves to impress, is sentimental, because most of the occasions that I do cookies for are big milestones. So bridal showers, baby showers, and then kids' birthdays 1 through 5, because once they're 5, they just want like the Publix cupcakes. So one is a really, really big one. Parents want that beautiful Pinterest moment with their cookies and everything. So I even went so far as to define my customer in terms of the area in which I live. So I live in Metro Atlanta, which is one of the biggest cities in the Southeast. There are plenty of people that live here, but there are, there's a certain segment of the population here that would be my customer. So Buckhead moms, country club folks, highly educated, that type of thing. So I'm going more for that customer. However, if you have a product that, you just have this endless capacity to make product and you can just be making it all day and all night like a machine, and you want to sell to every single person, maybe you have more, you have a wider net to cast with that. So when it comes to pricing, knowing who your customer is important, right? Because you want to be able to weed out people that are not your customer. So as an example for me, when I started, my custom cookies were $40 a dozen. I very quickly realized that I could not, it just wasn't worth it for me at that point. I'm trying to say it eloquently, but let me just say it was not, the time that I was putting in, it was not worth it for me. And I quickly realized that making custom cookies is very time consuming. Even if you're very experienced, you do become more efficient in some things, but in other things, it's just like, this is just going to take a while, and that's just the way it's going to be. So for me, I decided, okay, I want to be a high-end product. I want to be a luxury product. I need to be able to weed out customers who are not my target customer. I can't be making cookies for all of Atlanta. So for me, pricing became really important as a way to get back some of my time. Because again, when I first started, I had a price published. It was $40 a dozen. Then I quickly went to, well, it starts at 50 a dozen, but it goes up from there. And I thought it would be manageable to do one-on-one quoting, because again, at that point in time, and this is just shows how important your mindset is when it comes to your pricing, because at that point in time, I'll be honest, I was still not comfortable charging what I considered to be a lot for these types of cookies. When I was dipping into the $50, $60, $70 range for custom cookies, I was still feeling like bad. I was feeling like, oh, is this okay? I don't want to disappoint anyone. People are asking me to be part of these momentous events, and it was still during the pandemic. So anyways, it just goes to show, like, if you can control that part of your mindset, that will take you so far, I promise you. But anyways, that very quickly I realized also didn't work, because I was having back and forth with a lot of people. I was casting a wide net. I was going back and forth with a lot of people all the time. And then I would just get ghosted, right? So I would go back and forth on designs, what people were looking for, in order to get that quote to be at an appropriate level for my time. And then I would say, okay, it's, based on what you want, it's going to be $70 a dozen. And then I would hear nothing. And then I realized, you know what? The fact that I'm being ghosted, I want to take that and turn it into something that I can benefit from. So what I mean by that, again, is you're not going to change people. People don't feel a loyalty to you. They're not just going to feel loyal to you because you took the time to give them a quote. If someone walks into your shop or on your cast iron shop, they may like what they see, but they're not going to feel like a loyalty to you, right? So for me, what I ended up doing was publishing on my website, very clear, I have 3 packages of custom cookies. I have a basic package, and included in that basic package is line by line exactly what that includes and what it does not include. Second package is what I call bougie. It's like, I want to be that fancy cookie look, but I don't get all the bells and whistles. And then thirdly is beyond, which is just like totally Instagram worthy, all the gold, all the glitter, all the glam. I can do it all. I can do logos, whatever you want. And I just went for it with the prices. So I had somebody comment, if you ever want to have some entertaining reading, go on my Facebook page and just read the comments. It is the wild, wild west on Facebook, let me tell you. Instagram, everyone's like prim and proper and well behaved. In Facebook, it's just all out there. So funny enough, and I loved that I got this comment. I got a comment on the post that I did advertising this event we're doing, this presentation. And I said, we're going to be talking about how to raise your prices. I literally got someone who wrote, and these people are not customers, they're just random people on social media. Isn't $3 a cookie enough? No context. She probably doesn't know what I charge, which at a minimum, my very, very basic plan is $6.50 a cookie. And then I go up to $10 a cookie. And honestly, I've been in that pricing range for a little bit now, probably about a year. And I'm considering inching it up a little bit, because that's another tip I'll get to in a minute, how often you should change your prices. But I thought about that for a little bit, and I thought, you know what? It's really not enough. $3 is not enough, in my opinion, for me. You know, maybe if I had a machine where I was feeding cookies into a machine and a machine was doing it for me and it was manufactured, maybe, but honestly, no. And again, that's because I'm not looking to sell cookies to the world. I'm not looking to make it affordable for the world. I'm a for-profit business, not a non-for-profit business. So again, some of it's, you know, weeding out those customers, and some of it is educating your customers about your pricing and your time and what goes into it. So speaking of that, when it comes to your pricing, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but there is a bit of math involved, right? So your pricing should be a consideration of two things. It should be a consideration of your raw materials, which, you know, there are things that are what I would consider cost of business materials. So, you know, if I decide to go out and buy, you know, 1,000,000 cookie cutters because I just can't help myself and I just think they're cute and everything, that's not necessarily a cost I would pass on to my customer, but I will pass on the cost of the butter and the sugar and the flour and the packaging and the tissue paper and that type of thing. Now, I will not pass on, like, you know, boards that I buy for my backdrops or little props that I buy at Target for my photo taking, because that's my cost of business. That's my marketing money. So that's at a very basic level. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time walking you through how to do that, but you will want to figure out how much are your raw materials costing you. So for me, I would do the math on what does it cost me to make 2 dozen cookies. So let's say all in, it costs me $10 to make 2 dozen cookies. The next thing you're going to want to consider is your time. How much time does it take you to make a dozen cookies or 2 dozen cookies? For me, it's a big range. And that's why I decided to come up with the 3 tiers, because I more or less know about how much time it's going to take me for a basic bougie or beyond level cookies. So you want to find out how much time it's going to take you. And then you have the wonderful task of deciding how much you want to pay yourself. So what do you want to make per hour, per order, in order to sustain this business? So for me, I started off thinking, well, I don't want to make less than $20 an hour. How did I come up with that? It's a totally subjective number. For me, that's what I pay my nanny to watch my kids. And I should also mention, I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I am I'm their full-time caretaker during the day. We have a nanny that comes in 15 hours a week, during which I'm able to do my work during that time. And so I figured if I'm paying a nanny $20 an hour, I don't want to make less than her. So that's just me. For you, it may be different. Your needs may be different. Your capacity may be different. So since I do this part-time, I needed to earn a little bit more. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So maybe start by looking up the minimum wage in your area, just as a barometer. That'll also give you an indication of what other people are making, whether you live in Atlanta or if you live in, one of the suburbs of Atlanta, where maybe the cost of living is a little bit lower. That should also influence your pricing, but I don't want it to determine your pricing. Okay. So how do you raise your prices? Well, we have, sort of the quantitative analysis of going through, okay, how much time does it take me to make my product? How much do I want to earn? But then you have this whole other factor, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's called supply and demand. So we all remember probably from high school economics that supply and demand determines everything. Everything we purchase, everything that's available to us, is it in supply? Is it in demand? So I very quickly realized that I needed to also work within supply and demand of my business, because even once I raised my prices, I was still getting more demand than I was able to take, because again, I only have about 15 hours a week of childcare coverage. And then of course I can work at night, but I try to limit that. Once my kids go to bed, I probably work, when I'm working at full capacity, I probably work 2 to 3 nights a week for a couple hours, like 3 hours at night. So anyways, I'm working within a time constraint, and I was getting more requests for orders than I could take. So again, my demand was larger than my supply. So in that case, I was able to raise my prices. So at any point in your business, any point, doesn't have to be the first of the month, doesn't have to be the 15th, doesn't have to be a special day, just raise your prices. And you don't have to make a big deal about it. Don't say, okay, guys, I have an announcement to make, I raised my prices. Like, that's not going to be helpful to you. That's not going to be helpful to your customer. Have you ever gone into a store, any store? The only thing they ever advertise is a discount, right? So you do not want to advertise raising your prices. It's not going to benefit you in any way. It's not going to benefit the customer. And your prices are published. They're published on your cast iron shop. So you're not fooling anyone, okay? So I would really, really encourage you to do that as soon as you are, on somewhat of a consistent basis, but don't feel like it has to be for months and months and months before you change your prices. At a minimum, even if your demand is not quite there yet, I would still encourage you to raise your prices every 6 months. We all know the prices of ingredients are going up, everything's going up. Things are becoming unavailable, so you're having to purchase larger quantities of certain products. Like I remember a little while ago, meringue powder, which is an egg white powder that's used as a base for royal icing. You literally can't make royal icing without it. I mean, you can make it with raw eggs, but like, who has time for that? Meringue powder was becoming unavailable. So we were buying it in bulk. Like I bought like a 5-pound bag of it, which was over $100. And I only use like a third of a cup every batch. So anyways, our costs are going up. You got to pass it on. Even if you do it every 6 months and it's $1, just do it. So that's the end of my spiel, my notes, at least that I had, but I would love if you all have any questions, please put the questions in the chat box and I will get to them. And if we don't have time, I know we're probably wanting to wrap up in the next 10 minutes, but I'm here for you guys. We're all in this together, and please feel free to send me a DM or an email, and I would love to talk to you further.
Thank you so much, Laura. This is incredible advice. You've got our whole team excited in the background. And I have a couple questions, but please, if you guys have any questions to drop in the Q&A or the chat, put them in either place and I will ask them to Laura. First question is, what should you do if you calculate your costs and you think that your prices are too high? You know, like if you think to yourself, like, I would never pay this much for cookies or whatever product you're selling, you know, I would never pay as much as I have to in order to pay myself a good wage and cover all of my costs.
I would say it's one of two things. Again, that's a really great question. Thank you for asking. I really think, again, it comes back to your mindset. If you, and you may not be your own customer, okay? I joke all the time, you know, I've got 2 young kids and I do a lot of birthdays. I do not make these cookies for my children. And sometimes I feel bad. Talk about feeling bad. Sometimes I feel bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't make like the pretty princess cookies for Bella, or, you know, Presley didn't get special birthday cookies for her first birthday or whatever. But I'm not necessarily my own customer. Now, if I got married again, maybe I would want cookies for that. But, you know, it's okay. I think you have to give yourself some grace. And, you know, I can't force your hand in this, but I just really want to be that angel on your shoulder, just telling you it's okay and telling you that, you know, it will be hard at first, but there will become a day where you think your current prices aren't high enough, right? Because when I first, you know, took that leap from 40 to 50, I even remember telling my husband, is this okay? Like, I thought it was like an ethical thing at that point. I was like, is this okay that I'm doing this? And he's like, I think you should charge 100 a dozen. And I was like, babe, I'm like 2 months into this. He's like, you have people calling you. Like, so again, it just, for me, it was a big mindset thing. Now, I'm not telling you, you should necessarily charge, you know, $25 for a single cupcake, unless it has like some special thing on it. I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy to give you some one-on-one advice, just like truly objective, like advice. But most of us are pouring our hearts and souls into what we do. And I just really want to encourage you to be your own advocate and just take yourself out of that equation.
Incredible. That's like, I'm framing that and putting it on my wall. I've got a question from Anna. How does narrowing in on your target market help determine what you are going to charge for your cookies or whatever product you're selling?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it necessarily is going to help to give you a number, but I think having that person in mind, like if you want to give them a name, if you want to say, okay, they drive a BMW or whatever, I don't know. I can only speak to my business, and my business is a luxury product. Okay, it's for a person that appreciates art. It's for a person that appreciates handmade items. So again, let me give the chocolate chip cookie example. I love chocolate chip cookies. They're my absolute favorite cookies. If someone tells me this is the best chocolate chip cookie, actually, I'll give you guys an example. You should all go follow. There's this company out of LA. It's called Last Crumb. And I think I don't know who all does cookies here, who all does other items, but they have done such a brilliant job at positioning themselves as this like celebrity, you know, luxury, indulgent cookie brand. It's a box of 12 cookies and it's $140. Okay. So I purchased it because I was curious. I was like, damn, like these got to be the best cookies ever. And, you know, they were really, really good cookies, and it was amazing packaging. Would I buy it again? I don't know. I'm also a baker, so I'm like, I can do that myself. Like, but it was cool. It was an experience, and I appreciate that. So again, back to the question, having that customer in mind will, again, be another advocate for you to push yourself, to bring your prices up to a point that makes sense for that customer. If you're just pushing them out, pushing all the products out and wanting to sell to the world, maybe think about, the folks that would shop at, Target or Walmart, and your product's right there and they're going to grab it. So if that's your customer, you need to have that type of mindset where your product is super accessible to people. Okay. So I think it's a different avenue that you need to determine within your own business. Is my product super exclusive, or is my product for everyone? And I want to get all eyes on this product. I would imagine for most of us, we're small businesses, we're doing this out of our home. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody out there is not in that case, disclaim what I'm saying and just be like, okay, well, I know who my customer is, and my customer is anyone and everyone, and I want it to be accessible for everyone. If that's going to sustain your business, do that. But for me, charging $40 or even $50 a dozen is not going to sustain my business. That's just a hobby for me.
Great advice. Yes, got to know your customer before.
Go on these tangents. So
no, great answers. Matt wants to know about discounts and promotions. He is wondering if, in your experience, there's an optimal time for offering a discount. Do you offer discounts? When would you ever offer a discount?
That's a great question. I don't. And I'll tell you why. It's because, again, I have more of an exclusive customer base where I'm trying to funnel people. There's a level of funneling people that want cookies, because a lot of people think, they'll go to a birthday party and they see these beautiful cookies and they have no idea how much they cost. They don't know if a person did them. I mean, I've done cookies before where I'll get feedback like, oh yeah, the person didn't even know that there was a person that made these. So again, a lot of it's about education. So mine is taking, say 100 people want my cookies. I'm trying to get it down to like 10 to just go through the funnel. And that's not to say people don't deserve my cookies or what, it's not about me. It's just, I only have a certain amount of time, and there's only a segment of the population that is going to want to spend money on this type of product. So I would say, go for the discount. If you have the budget for it, that's marketing. I don't spend a whole lot of money on marketing because I spend time on marketing, and time is money, but I spend a lot of my time, my time goes towards marketing. But if you have the budget, give a discount, back to school, 2 for 1. That is a fantastic way to get people to try your product and to get new customers. So I don't want to discount that at all. I'm talking this whole time about raising your prices, but don't be afraid to use those tools to your disposal. And I believe there's a way to send a coupon, right? There's a way to send a coupon through the website to your email. So again, offer a coupon, give me your email. I'll send you a, 10% off your first order or whatever it is. Absolutely do that.
Yes, discounts are a great marketing tool. Definitely a good way to get people in the door. I have one last question from Lindsay. How do you recommend artisans think about the cost of practicing and perfecting their product? She says, I make cakes, have sold a few, but I'm not extremely experienced. She's had a few inquiries about upcoming weddings, but she's scared about losing money if and when she practices, or charging too much if she doesn't meet the customer's expectations.
Yeah, I would say that you have to go with your level of comfort and confidence in your own skills. Wedding cakes, I would imagine, take a lot of skill. I remember early on in my business, I was asked to do some character cookies. Oh, hey, can you do PJ Masks, or can you do this? And I said, sure, I can. And I did not know how to do that. And I have since learned that I will not do that. I don't do anything with eyes. But if it's something that's slightly outside your comfort zone, just go for it. I think just the fact that you're a little bit nervous will give you that drive to push yourself forward. And again, I time for practicing, like I'm constantly practicing. I'm constantly seeing new techniques on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I want to try that for my next set, but I'm not sure quite how to do it. Like I just made a cookie that looks like those dishes that you put your wedding rings on and or your rings on at the end of the day. I wanted to make a cookie that looked like that for a bridal shower. And I was like, I looked in my cabinet and I found like those parchment baking cups and I was like, I don't know, this might go right, this might go wrong. And it turned out pretty good. I mean, I think I could perfect it, but that's the thing, that you're going to be way harder on yourself, especially when it comes to cakes and cookies and things that take some artistry, then like let's say you just sell a really bad chocolate chip cookie and it just doesn't taste good to anybody, like that's different. But I think when it comes to your artistry, I do think it is a craft that you have to practice. And I wouldn't say like, again, that's a cost of business. That's something that you're going to benefit from time and time again, that doesn't necessarily need to be passed on to your customer. I mean, when it comes to a larger, more intricate order, I would add that time on. Like a wedding cake should be like, you have your cakes that you do for birthdays and stuff, but your wedding cakes should be like a huge jump from that. Like jump yourself up to a level where if you get a wedding cake order, and by the way, you should only be taking orders that you want to do. Okay. That's just, I could do a whole nother live just on that. But if you're taking a wedding cake order and you're not fully prepared or comfortable with that yet, you need to be charging a lot, in my opinion, because you're gonna take this seriously. You're gonna put a lot of time and effort into this. And if you're gonna become a wedding cake designer, you need to bring yourself up to that level. So I hope that makes sense. Again, I'm happy to like help troubleshoot particular questions, like just DM me or email me.
Yes, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Laura. This has been so helpful. Everyone, if you have questions for Laura, she's offered to answer them through DM. She's at Butterfly Bakes ATL on Instagram, so make sure to follow her and submit any questions that you have there. But thank you so much, Laura. This has been,
Yeah,
yeah.
let me just add one more thing before we close up. The whole thing about the community, Cast Iron has done a great job of creating a community. I mean, such a young company, right? But we've already created a community. The Facebook group, I see a lot of people, asking questions and stuff, which is great. But just know that you can just go in there to feel less alone, right? Like I'm in there. I know a lot of the Cast Iron employees are in there. Like we're here to support you. And if you're just really struggling with a particular situation, like don't be afraid, just jump in. People are here to help you, and we want to do this together because we want to grow and we want you to make more money. So that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want for you.
Yes, couldn't have said it better myself. So yes, follow Laura on Instagram and please join us in the kitchen on Facebook if you are not already there.